Hey folks, today we're going to get into a quick market pulse. Here's what's moved in crypto last week, the price action flows, and the charts I'm watching. So stick around as we dive into the details to help make you better crypto decisions. I'm Gordon from Metaverse and Crypto. So in the big market summary in major markets, the big crypto snapshot is markets spent the week consolidating after mid-October deleveraging. Total market cap traded inside and sideways a band with muted volume and low conviction. So the environment favors ranged management rather than aggressive trend exposure. As you can see here, we have a 3.7 trillion market cap. Fear and greed is now at 31, and the altcoin season is at 32 of 100. Previously, we talked about this metric here, the average RSI. Check out one of my other videos for that as well if you want to get information on how to utilize that as well. So getting into Bitcoin and what it's been doing here, shout out to Flex Perps, which is on the base chain. I utilize them. If you're interested, just go get over to give them a check if you're interested in perp trading. Again, not financial advice, just get out there and utilize them. So what's going on with Bitcoin? So the Bitcoin traded in a defined range all week. Buyers absorbed dips but did not push a clear breakout. So momentum remains neutral until we see expanding volume. As you can see here, we've previously had this line. We dropped it down here to 106,500, and we were all the way up at 116 here up for the wicks here. These are the 7 days in here that we have for this week going forward. So it bumped off this green line here, which is a 200 EMA line, and held at the support zone in there as well. For Ethereum, it trended along a similar track as well. I don't have any lines in here as well, but you can see this one, it didn't quite bump down below to the 200 EMA line, but Ethereum tracked at the same chop, holding near its mid-range. It went down here to about 3680 and all the way up to 3250. So that one, as well had some volatility and intraday, periodic intraday volatility, but no sustained directional impulse. So we're just kind of in a holding pattern to see what goes on next with these as well and what's going forward. So next we're going to talk about, ETF and institutional inflows. Spot ETF inflows here, we're on DeFi Llama with this one. So I've tried to zoom in so that you can see this a little bit better here as well. But spot ETF flows shifted late last week. DeFi Llama shows a large BTC outflow, particularly the last 2 days. If we switch over to the daily here, we zoom in on this one. Sorry, folks. Zoom in here, we can see the large 2 outflows here as well. And for BTC over October, or the stats that we have here, the outflows are 488 million and Ethereum is 181 million down. So they are getting a bit negative, and we had some positive flows going forward. Again, for the weekly side here, early on in end of September into October, for BTC, we had major positive inflows for the ETFs, and they've gone the other way now. So just watch for that as you're going forward. Again, the link for DeFi Llama is down below, so you can provide, get some education information on how to utilize this and where it's going. So Bitcoin withdrawals over the last 2 days make short-term price action highly flow sensitive. Treat any breakout attempt as suspect until you get multi-day ETF inflows reappearing alongside expanding volume. That's kind of my opinion on that one, what I'm looking at and waiting for. So on-chain derivatives indicators. So if we look at open interest and perpetual funding rates normalized over mid-October, and we had peaks going on there as well. So if we go, here's one article that I saw that talked about how decentralized exchange surpassed 1 trillion, and they point out Hyperliquid, which has been very strong. Aster and Lighter, they're increased 50% month over month surge here going forward, and how they're working forward. So sorry about that. If we get into DeFi Llama here, and again, I pulled this one out, and you can add in the metrics here. You can add metrics, and you get the perp volume. I'll try and zoom in on this one, and it creates a little bit of issues. Sorry about that. Just for those that are on a sell, if we can work forward here and get this forward. So this is the weekly perp volume, as you can see here. Early in October, we had it going forward. Oh, I better zoom over to the side. So in October, we could see here we had the peak. It's been a nice driving volume of this going forward. And in October 6th to the 12th, we had the highest volume ever for perps here. This reported by DeFi Llama, 337 billion, and we kind of sustained that as well. This one's down a little bit lower, but we still have a couple days left in the week here, so I expect this one to push up close to these last 2 weeks as well. Maybe it'll even do a little bit better going forward. So we have, the on-train derivatives existing, and what is this telling? We have the peaks and showing traders and dealers are deleveraging, and that reduces the likelihood of a violent squeeze going forward. And it means breakouts will need fresh spot and ETF flows to sustain them as well going forward. So if we talk a little bit about how Dex and altcoins going forward, similar on DeFi Llama here, we have added in the metrics Dex volume. As you can see, this one's kind of had a couple spikes, but what's happening with this here as well, Dex volumes continue to accelerate in late October, from April producing weekly highs and pushing the monthly Dex totals to elevated levels. This looks persistent and not a single week blip, so we'll see how this goes here. The last couple weeks have been down a little bit lower, but some centralized exchange flow metrics remain muted, so the liquidity and rotation are increasingly occurring on chain, and use of DEXs are being ramping up a little bit here as well. So again, you can see we slightly beat this in January. We had 2 peak weeks, and then we went down here to the TVL in March, and then we've been kind of ramping up slowly since then going forward. So the DEXs have seen more action, and what's going on with that. So that's kind of what's going on with the DEXs there. Altcoin pulse and headline drive movers. Selected altcoins had moves, but there was not a broad altcoin season as we saw from CoinMarketCap. 32 of 100, not a great score right now. There's a handful of tokens which spiked on discrete headlines and social attention, while most alt liquidity stayed thin. As we can see here, let's talk a little bit about HBAR and Litecoin. There was new ETFs on that one, and if we get into an article here, sorry about that. So we had a new Canaries spot HBAR and Litecoin ETFs debut to silence as investors stay on the sideline. So this was not a good debut for these ones. HBAR did spike up a little bit, maybe on the anticipated news of this, but there's really not a whole lot of Litecoin and HBAR ETFs saw zero inflows with minimal trading volume, according to this article. So there was not a lot going on here to help the altcoin season, but we did get some new ETFs, and maybe there'll be some uh, buying there going forward, but we'll see what happens on that one. So basically just watch, the flows on those ones and see what's going forward. So what are we going to watch for next for the altcoins? Prioritize DEX flow anomalies. Get into DeFi Llama and see if there's tokens with sudden sustained DEX volume spikes, where spikes are the highest, and probably shortlist those ones looking forward to go forward. So this requires, the DEX volume, and then you also require inflows as well from the spot exchange volume in the order books going forward, as well as that. So make sure you look for that volume. And overall, I guess, what are the tactical guidelines that I'm using personally? Do your own research and get your information there. But in a range market, I try to define trade with defined risk, which means, you know, there's mean revision, and take actually a closer look at with value. You want tight stop losses to make sure things have been bouncing around a little more aggressively, and confirm this with spot volume and DEX flows as well. So for breakouts, wait for expanded volume and maybe look at multi-day ETF spot inflows before, if you're going to go on a large move and stuff like that, and hopefully we can get that large move. So looking ahead here, we got a couple of things coming up in the next couple of weeks. We have an excuse me, we have an SEC decision deadline on November 12th, 2025. It's a full day meeting, and if the SEC decides to approve more ETF filings, there could be a ramp up with anticipation as well, and they could go the way of HBAR and Litecoin's one as well, and so then you'll see them dip back down. But this is a date you want to look for. It's coming up November 12th, and then the US CPI release going forward. So if we're looking at the monthly inflation print and see how that has any surprises, this could re-rate the risk asset and can spill over into crypto as well. So these moves in information can create spikes. So watch the mid-month, the 12th and the 13th for those two pieces going forward, and make sure that you're not caught out on those. So in closing, in this environment, expect oscillations between on-chain rotation pockets and short news-driven moves, and keep an eye on the calendar cards that I just showed you. And there are other points as well. I didn't cover all of them that are out there. There's some in Europe as well, and other areas in the US that can move them as well. So confirm the headlines, look on and spot information on chain before you actually get going forward. So that's the pulse right now. Let me know if you want some further information in the comments below, and I'll try and bring it to you. This is Gordon for Metaverse and Crypto.